Hello everybody, welcome back to the Advanced Vape channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the MASK RDA from TIMESVAPE. This is a 30mm RDA. It's got kind of the Guy Fawkes mask design on there. And the build deck, as you would expect on a 30mm RDA, is absolutely huge. This is actually the first 30mm RDA that I've used. It has kind of a unique build deck. It has a combination of 4-post or 4-terminal 2-post and goon style clamps in there, which makes it a little bit easier putting big builds in there. Bottom air as well as indirect air at the top. Bottom air can be adjusted, these holes cannot. With the 810 tip at the top. It also comes with as well as just the bag with O-rings and screws and stuff. It comes with a drip tip adapter and an anti-spit back kind of adapter. So I'm going to put a really big build in there. I feel like that's the best use for an RDA of this size. I just made some really big frame staples to go in there. And I know normally I already have the build in there, but I figured this build deck is different enough that I can just go on and install it so you can see how I do it. I think that there's probably multiple ways that you could install it. You could just use the clamps at the top. You could just use the terminals, or you could use both, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have the bottom lower leg in one of the holes and then the upper leg in the clamp on both sides. So I'll go on and speed through installing the coils really fast. So the process of putting these coils in there using the combination of both of them is a lot faster than using just one or the other. And I like that you don't have to try and stack the legs or fit them all on the clamps like you would in the goon. You can kind of just mix it up and use both styles. It makes it a lot faster and easier. And I feel like it has a more secure connection doing it like that. Okay, and now we can go on and speed through the dry firing. Okay, so super easy on the dry firing, no issues there. And I was trying to not fit it completely over the airflow, kind of blocking it. I tried to leave just a little bit on the sides. There's a big chamber there, so the more airflow kind of speeding past the coils, the better, especially considering that it has the indirect air that you can't adjust. So because this is such a big RDA, wicking this is not going to be an issue. The area for the wicks is absolutely huge, and that would hold quite a bit of juice in that juice well. So I'm going to be using cotton bacon, and we'll go on and speed through that. I used a lot longer cotton length than I would have on maybe a 25 millimeter RDA or just even a 22. So there's tons of room in there for the cotton. So I made the legs nice and long. So the RDA has airflow for both sides or a single. I haven't tried a single on here. I feel like this is a dual coil RDA, so that's where I'm using it. I've noticed sometimes it can be kind of hard to get that top cap on there. Once it's seated, it's fine, but the initial putting it on there can be a little bit difficult. I'm going to close down the airflow just a little bit, and I'm going to use this at about 120 watts. Now I'm going to close down the airflow even more. Right about there. So there's a lot of airflow there. This is a really big build in there, and it's like completely cool. So that kind of build on a smaller tank or a smaller RDA would be really warm. There's no warmth at all. It's just really cool and absolutely huge clouds. I know it's kind of hard to tell from the camera angle here, but the whole room is kind of fogged up now just from me vaping on it just a little bit. The flavor on this is about even with other RDAs that I've used. The kind of peak flavor on this one doesn't really come with the second or third vapes like you would kind of expect from other RDAs. It's kind of initially when the wicks are still extremely saturated. So to me, this RDA is kind of built around really big builds and oriented towards clouds for sure. I think more than likely that's down to the indirect air at the top, really just dumping air in there as you're vaping it, and that kind of seriously multiplies the clouds. And normally on indirect air, it can kind of kill the flavor. In this case, it doesn't really kill the flavor. The flavor is not as intense or as dense as it would be in something with less air in a smaller chamber, but to me, this is kind of oriented around clouds anyway. So for being a kind of cloud RDA, it does have good flavor. So I think if you're looking for an RDA to fit just absolutely enormous coils, and you're kind of looking for something that's oriented towards clouds but doesn't completely sacrifice on flavor, I think it's a good fit. If you're looking for a pure flavor RDA, I would probably go with something else. This is definitely oriented towards clouds. Overall, though, for being the first 30 millimeter RDA that I've tried, I like it. I like being able to just easily put a really big build in there without having to work with it too much. And I could have easily put a bigger build in there. It can definitely fit 3.5 or 4 millimeter diameter for sure. Even with real thick wire like the staples that I have in there, no issue as far as fitting it in there. And just taking a look at the build deck, there's a ton of room left over for bigger coils if you wanted to, and these coils are really big in and of themselves. So just a lot of options if you're headed towards really big builds or cloud chasing. I think I probably could easily run this at 200 watts and it wouldn't be too warm. I'll try it at 160 and see what it's like. Yeah, it's still not hot. It's getting slightly warm at 160, but not hot at all, like 160 you would expect that it would be. So kind of the sky's the limit as far as the build and the wattage that you put in there. If I had to come up with a con, it would be that there's no adjustment for this indirect air. So if you were trying to kind of focus on flavor and do maybe a smaller build, it would be nice to get rid of that indirect air if you wanted to. But it doesn't compromise the flavor as much as indirect air on other RDAs. So if you remember the original Velocity RDA, that indirect air was just a complete flavor killer. If you open that up, there's no flavor at all, ever. And that's not really the case here, but it would be nice to be able to close those off. Yeah, just overall a huge kind of cloud-oriented RDA. And I like the flexibility of it if you're looking for big stuff. So that'll bring us to the end of this video about the MASK RDA from TIMESVAPE. If you like this video on our channel, give us a like and subscribe. And as always, if you have any questions, leave them below in the comments or send me an email. Thanks.